Hi, welcome to my channel Cloud with Girish. In the previous video, I explained various concepts for CloudWatch logs, including hands-on examples of log groups using AWS Console, Python Boto 3 SDK, and AWS CLI. If you are interested in prior videos on the CloudWatch log topics, please refer to the links below. In this video, I will demonstrate how to implement a data protection policy for sensitive log data. Logging is crucial for application monitoring. However, it is equally important to ensure that sensitive data is not published in the log. If such data is published due to the bug in the code, a robust data protection policy must be in place to safeguard it. This ensures that engineers without the appropriate credential cannot access sensitive information from the logs. Examples of sensitive data include social security numbers, account numbers, phone numbers, name, address, or any other information classified as sensitive by your organization information security or business policies. Let's look at the architecture. We are using CloudWatch to store the logs from Lambda EC2 or other services. CloudWatch provides several functions, including logs, alarm, metrics. In this use case, we are looking at the log and the log groups. And the use case is that we protect the sensitive information from a specific log group by implementing the data protection policy. So in this scenario, I'm picking up two data elements like name and address, and I'm going to protect them using the data protection policy feature of the CloudWatch. Basically, this will mask the data element selected in this example. Prerequisite for this is just simple familiarity with the AWS console, some basic understanding of AWS CloudWatch service, and of course looking at the prior video on these several topics around CloudWatch will be helpful. Let's get started. We're going to look at why data protection policy is needed, ways to create data protection policy. You can select or create a CloudWatch log group, will create a data protection policy, will configure the data element for masking protection, and then will configure a destination log group for audit results. I'll validate the data protection policy by invoking a Lambda function, and then I'll review the results in the audit log. At the end, I'll do the cleanup, which is basically deleting the data protection policy and deleting the log group. So let's look at why data protection policy. So really, think of it that are you storing sensitive data in your application logs and relying solely on Cloud's security to protect it? It's time to think again and revisit your data protection policy. And the reason for that is the AWS shared responsibility model. It's a foundational concept for understanding security and compliance in the cloud. While AWS takes responsibility for securing the infrastructure that runs all AWS services, including hardware, software, networking, and facility, customers are responsible for securing the data and workload they deploy in AWS. So what that means is that while AWS provides the tools, services, and policies to safeguard data, implementing these measurements and adhering to the best practices rest with customer. So for example, AWS offers features like encryption, access control, and monitoring, but customer must configure and use these tools to protect their applications and data effectively. With this shared responsibility in mind, this video explores how to implement data protection policy for the CloudWatch log, ensuring compliance with security best practices while leveraging AWS powerful features. In production environment, logging is essential for monitoring and troubleshooting. However, despite best practices to avoid logging sensitive data, there may be a bug or mischecks where such data get logged. Once exposed, this data could potentially be accessed by other application or user, creating a security risk. By implementing AWS CloudWatch data protection policy, we can protect sensitive information in log. This feature will mask the sensitive data in log groups and can route the data, like the audit data, to Amazon S3, Kansas Firehose, or another log group for auditing and alerting. I will use another log group as the destination to route the audit data for future reporting, alerting, and so on. Let's look at ways to create data protection policy. So AWS provides several different ways to configure the data protection policy. We can configure the data protection policy using the management console, using the AWS CLI, or using the AWS CloudFormation. In this example, I will use AWS Management Console to configure the data protection policy. I will use name and address data elements as an example data to protect in the published logs. So how do we go about it? So first thing first, we need a CloudWatch log group that we want to protect. So we can select an existing log group, or we can create a new CloudWatch log group. To create a new CloudWatch log group in the AWS Management Console, just navigate to CloudWatch and create a new log group. If you want to select an existing CloudWatch log group, then in the console, navigate to CloudWatch and select an existing log group. In this example, I'm selecting an existing log group that I have, which is named as Meeting Note Summarizer. If you would like to learn the steps to create new log group, you can watch prior video on CloudWatch, and link for that is in the description. Next, we need to create a data protection policy for this selected log group. So to create a data protection policy, once I am in the CloudWatch log group, navigate to the data protection tab in this log group. So you will see multiple tabs here. We need to click on data protection tab, and then from there click on create policy. Once you are there, then you will see like a drop down, like CloudWatch offer over 100 predefined data element to mask. It's credit card number, the email address, the social security number, name, zip code, and many others. So in this example, I'm selecting address and name as the data element. And then after I have selected those elements, then I will click on activate data protection. So this will create the data protection policy. Now next, I can configure a destination log group for audit result. Now AWS allow various destination. It can be another CloudWatch log group, could be S3, Kansas Data Firehose to store the audit log result. So I'm selecting the another CloudWatch log group as the audit destination, and that group log group is PII audit log GB. So this is where the audit finding will go, and we will see it in a minute that how the data looks in real life. So now we have the data protection policy. Let's validate that it's working or not working. Now, in order for us to validate, we actually need to create a function that will generate the log and will publish to this log group. So I have a Lambda function for a GenAI app I have created to invoke this function in the backend. And when this function is invoked, this will create the logs in the log group. So I'm going to invoke this function. And then once I invoke it, let's refresh the log group in the CloudWatch and open the log stream. And then look for the entry where name and address elements are masked per the configured data protection policy. So if you see here, like the asterisk signs, this is the masked data. So the because of my data protection policy, all the new logs that has the name and address as a data element in the log, it will be masked. So, and when it masked, I'm seeing it in the CloudWatch log group, but there is also another log group that I defined for the audit finding. So if we look at that audit logs in the target log group, which is PII audit log DB, I will see a JSON like this. So it's telling me that, hey, it found like, multiple occurrence of this name, and then it's also telling me that where in the log those were found. So this is really the audit finding here, and I can set up the alarm on this, get the trigger, get a email or a message in my Slack or team, however way I want to get notified, right? So this is the power of defining the data protection policy, where you can protect the sensitive data. Now, once we're done with this policy and we have seen that how it works, if you don't need it going forward basis, then make sure you delete the data protection policy and you delete the log group. And because you don't want to get the cost in your account on an ongoing basis, if this is something that you don't plan to keep it in your account. So in this workshop, I have successfully demonstrated how to implement a CloudWatch data protection policy and mask sensitive data according to the configured element. I also explained how to store audit records in the designated log group. This setup ensures that any logging of sensitive information is automatically protected, reducing the risk of data exposure. Now, like I stated before, logging and monitoring are essential component of observability, and mastering different techniques can greatly enhance your skill in this area. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm constantly working on new content covering various AWS topics, so please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Cloud with Girish channel. Your support helps me continue creating valuable AWS tutorial and workshop. Stay tuned for more exciting content. Thank you.